finger, guys, need to be off the trigger today, all right? When we're moving, when we're doing dynamic stuff, unless it's at presentation, that means the weapon's leveled with your eye line, that's the only time that weapon goes on fire, all right? Some guys asked, I had some police officers say, well, I run my gun on fire all the time. I run through the house with my gun on fire because that's just the way that we do things. I'm like, hey man, that's you. That's you, because you never had to shoot around your buddies. You never had to shoot from moving platforms and do reloads around people's heads, your teammates' heads. So it's better to develop the muscle memories now, right? You don't think I run through the house with it on fire? Sometimes, depending on the threat levels, depending on the situation. But I have the muzzle, I have the discipline that I trained over and over through the years to put my weapon on safe and to manipulate that in a stressful environment, okay? So if you're saying, if a lot of guys say to me, well, I don't put my weapon on safe because it's, you know, under stress, I'll forget. Well, then you're not training. You didn't put yourself there in the training scenarios, okay? All right, that's my thought, okay? Obviously, people have different opinions. Okay, so let's talk about an AR. Let's talk about the setup of an AR. So let's talk about the muzzle, and I'll go all the way down to what I look for in a combat setup on my AR. Now, I have different ARs. For CQB, I usually go 12.5 inch, right? For anything else, I go 16 inch. And the reason why is, dude, I run this in CQB before too, all right? So 16 inches, 12.5 inches, it don't matter. But that 12.5 inches is still allowing me the platform I needed to get in these confined spaces. This right here is a little bit harder to move in confined spaces, in vehicles and stuff like that. All right, so let's talk about the brake, right? I run the Surefire brake just because it mounts up to my suppressor, okay? The problem with this brake is if you shoot it next to your teammates, he's going to feel the concussion, right? Because it's a little bit of a compensator. It pushes the energy to the side. Just understand that, right? When you're shooting around teammates or whatever. So if you run suppressor, I definitely recommend some kind of muzzle that has a suppressor adapter to it. And this is a Surefire one. All right. I run night vision, so I'm going to need some kind of IR laser. All right. That's a whole different class, but I do run night vision. If you run night vision, well, you probably need some kind of IR laser on your gun. Tac light is a must, all right, especially in low light conditions, CQB environments, different lighting conditions, you're going to need some kind of tac light, all right. I like my pistol grip forward, right, and the reason why is I don't run like this, right, I'm not running like that. I need to get to my instruments, okay? So this allows me that leverage, that see how the C-clamp? I'm working the C-clamp, and then I have all my switches along with my light right about here, okay? I do believe in some kind of flip-up sights, right, in case your optics go down. I do believe in that. If you run a magnifier behind your optic right here, then obviously you're not gonna have the real estate, right? If you're trying to keep everything on the frame of the gun, right, you're not going to have the real estate that you need. So you may have to go an off point on your fixed sights, like competition shooters. I've seen, you know, on my sniper rifle, I have off points, okay? All right, so I like to rubber band, retainer band all my, my cables so it's not getting in the way, all right? So anything that's wires or whatever, you need to rubber band that down, all right? These are Ranger bands that you can buy on Amazon. They're called Ranger bands, really they are. And I don't know if a Ranger made it, but they're called Ranger bands. And I use this in combat and they're durable, man. I rubber band everything down, okay? So get rid of all the cables. It does get snagged on shit, all right? All right, so let's talk about optics. Dude, that's an individual shooter preference, man, right? Some guys run EOTechs. I ran EOTechs because that's what we're issued in the military, along with a 3x, just like how he has his setup. You know, we had an EOTech scare, right? But I tell you what, I never had problems with my EOTech. I don't know if that's just a bad batch, but in combat, I never had problems with my EOTech. All right. I do like to run the Leopold because the EOTech, you have that 65 minute angle ring. You know what that means? Minute angle, everybody? All right, you got the 65 minute angle ring and you got the minute angle in the center. Well, to me, it was a little bit busy, right? I just like a dot. That's it, because I'm old school like that. When I first got to the teams, we had the tubular aiming points at the time. It wasn't even a magnifier. It was old school, like 90, 98, right? So it was a tubular shit with one dot in the center, and we were running that. So I'm used to running just one red dot. And the Leopold LCO allows me that window of an EOTech that I'm trained on, but it simplifies it to just a minute angle dot. What's a minute angle? What does it mean?
1 inch at 100 yards.
What's that?
1 inch at 100 yards.
That's right, right? So 200 yards, what? Right. So at 100, right, you're hitting at a 1 inch, basically a 1 inch dot or 1 inch box, okay? So 1 minute angle, when I look at a gun, I look at the angles on the gun. What's the minute angle on that optic, okay? I like 1 minute angles, unless I'm doing sniper operations, and I go sub-minutes. When you're zeroing today, if I blast my fucking optic up where it's like you can see a red vignetting around the optic, do you think that's 1 minute angle anymore? Okay. So when you're zeroing your gun today, I need it dimmed down till you barely see it. Understand? Where you like have to try to almost kind of find it. All right? And that's how you truly get a good zero in. I remember this one student had his shit blasted and he had a hard time even finding the target. Understand? So even in CQB mode, guys, I don't blast my fucking window. Okay? If you see how that looks in a hallway at night, you probably don't want to blast that optic like that. All right? If you're trying to keep stealth now. All right, so what are we shooting today? Okay. Anybody? Okay, so scopes like a 1 to 6, I'm all about that, man. Especially like when I did vehicle interdictions, I was all about, especially helicopter to ground interdictions, I was all about the tubular because it allowed me that optical gain, right? Instead of using just a flip, okay? The problem with that is you can only drop it down to a 1 by. That means there's a little bit of magnification difference and it could trick your eyes. Now, you overcome that by obviously firing with both eyes open, right? Yes. Do we fire both eyes open? So let's just say I have a problem firing with both eyes open. I'm just, having a problem learning. I'm always shifting focus to one eye. How would I get over that? Excuse me? So let's just say today, as we're firing, and you're like, man, I keep on closing one eye too. I want to get used to firing with both eyes open. So young team guys, when they come in, they have a problem firing with both eyes open, right? Why do we like to fire with both eyes open? Situation awareness, right? Situation awareness, and obviously, and you're not shifting all your focal to one eye, okay? So what I usually do is if you look at an optic, you take tape, and you put tape or you put the dust cover, if there is like aiming point has dust covers that you could put over, and you basically block out the front side of your optic. All right? So you think if I block out the front side of my optic and I'm firing and I close one eye, then I'm just going to see black with a fucking dot, right? But if I fire both eyes open, I'm going to see the dot and I'm going to see what the target. Right? So that's how you kind of train yourself. Do you see that as a when can I use that on a mission operationally, that concept? You ever laid on a range and then the sun's directly in your face and it washes out your optic? You can't really see. You ever had that happen? Yes or no? Yes. So the sun's blasting your face. You think you're going to see that optic? No, you're not. So sometimes what I do is I close that front side and then I can see it crystal clear. All right, so tactically you can use that to your advantage. I learned that in the Philippines. About zeroing a gun. What do we zero our guns at? Give me some numbers. Are we zeroed? Would you zero your weapon at? 25?
40.
Huh?
40 yards.
So a lot of thought process going on between 25, 15, whatever, right? Can't think like that. Can't think like that with an AR. I like your concept, but you can't think like that with AR because an AR is a ranged weapon. Remember what I told you. What is your purpose of carrying that weapon? We talked about maximizing range, right? You think you're going to maximize range when you zero your weapon at 25 meters? You're not, right? So I've done a lot of zeroing through my life. I took data from different terrains, and I came up with my baseline zero. Obviously, terrain has a lot to do with it. If you live in a desert environment, you want to flatten out that zero. You want minimum offsets on that zero. But for an everyday gun, right, I'm all about the 50-meter zero. And let me explain why. Why do you think that, Richard? Why do you think 50-meter zero?
You can hit at 50 and you can hit at 200.
That's right.
And the deviation in the projectile is not going to be too far off.
Beautiful. All right. So a 50-meter zero, if you understand ballistics, right? So the round goes through the grooves and the bores on your barrel. It goes into a spin, supersonic spin, right? It goes into spin, and the bullet then arches, right? So it comes out, it kind of climbs like a football, and then it goes into a transonic stage. Transonic is when the bullet goes from subsonic, right, to transonic, where it starts to wobble, okay, and then it glides out there. That's sniper range, okay? So you got to understand your muzzle velocity and your ballistics, all right? So what Richard said was, if I zero my rifle in at 50 meters, ballistically, that data, so imagine 200, at 50 meters, it's going to start climbing. And then it climbs and it drops down around 200 meters in the same plane. Understand? It's the same plane as that 50-meter zero. So it's great to have that close data, right? And then it has that kind of far data. Why do I need range on my AR? If I'm like, well, I'm a police officer, I'm going to do CQB. I don't need range because I'm close quarters. Why do you think we need range?
So to have a need none, but we need to have none.
Why do you think we need it?
In order to be engaged.
Think about data, guys. So I'm all about statistics. I read, ever since a child, I've been reading history, wars, right? When I was in the Special Forces, I would study past battles and data, right? What did we make mistakes on? That's the worst thing. If there's data out there and you don't read it, and this is your life, you're just a dumb guy, right? So the thing was that guys were zeroing their guns at a close range, but dude, they were getting in street fights. Think about Somalia, Panama, right? Those are environments that are going to see. I'll tell you my personal Iraq, right? We're going in, containing, isolating houses, and then getting shot down the street, 200 meters, 300 meters down the street, right? So for my police officers, you need to understand that. It's not just about, an AR is not just about your close quarters range. You have to understand what's the capability of that AR. It's to get that range, that distance, okay? So today, I'm going to zero you in at a 50-meter zero, okay? A 50-meter zero would also allow you that 200-meter, roughly around 200-meter ballistics, the same holds. If you personally, as an individual, feel like that's something you don't want, then tell me. This is your gun, all right? But if you don't know, I'm going to give you my experience, and my experience is a 50-meter zero, dude, it was a great zero for CQB and distance, all right? So you get the best of both worlds. Now, obviously, on a 50-meter zero, what do we have to build? We have to build the data from 50 all the way up to 5-meter line, right? If CQB is your game, right? Why is that? We want to build that data. When I say build that data, it's building what? Holds. Know your holds, right? So on a gun, we have a sight to bore offset. So the sight to the bore offset, where the round goes and the sight. So roughly, if you see, I have a 2-inch drop, Okay, so the old school days was we had the carrying handles, right? We didn't have modular system when I got to the A-teams. We had the carrying handles, and we had this tubular fucking optic red dot on top of it. Dude, it was like a 5.5-inch offset, right? So when I was going through CQB training, it was like I pop it up, my gun was down here, my optic was up here, right? Okay, that's what we had. That's what we had. So when the modular system came in, I'm like, holy shit, that's so badass. So I was able to drop my optic. The lower you drop the optic is what? The less offset you have. Okay, so you should understand that. So kind of look at where your sight to bore offset is and know that's kind of roughly where you have to hold. You understand? Okay. All right, so let's talk about slings. What we got going on slings today? Okay, I see some different ideas on slings. All right, single points. Raise your hands. Anybody believe in single point? Double points? You don't believe in single point, DJ?
No, I don't even know how to use it.
Okay, because I'm looking at your single point. I'm like, you don't believe in single? Okay, all right. Okay. All right, and then the 3-point slings. Remember the 3-point slings? I don't know, some of you guys. Okay, the 3-point slings, dude, I got to the A-teams, I was carrying the MP5. It was a 3-point sling back then, right? I'm like, man, this is so badass, right? And then I'm like, when there was an eagle down, I'm dragging fucking shit's hitting me in the balls, and I'm climbing fences, hitting me in the face. I'm like, man, this 3-point sling ain't working for me. Right? And then I started seeing guys maneuvering and doing all this shit with 1-point sling. I'm like, that's it. That's it. That's the sling. Right? And then I climbed over my first fence, and there was a rifle on this side, and my body was on this side, and I'm trying to reach over and grab my rifle, and I fell over. And I'm like, that's it. I'm done with the 1-points. But I like the 1-point. Let me tell you what. The 1-point sling allowed me that freedom to maneuver from weak side to strong side. It allowed me to just work the mechanics like I didn't have a sling. It was great. Besides getting racked and, Edgar Sherman came out with this thing. I recently switched over. I'm really kind of old school when it comes to my gear. What kept me alive overseas is kind of hard for me to pull off of it. But the Edgar Sherman sling allowed that tension, right? But also, you don't see any free-floating shit. That means there's no straps floating around in there, okay? So this is a great sling. How I work this sling, 2-point, is I have it over here like this, right? You have to, when you size up a sling, usually what I do is I measure into my shoulder line. Measure into my shoulder pocket right here, and then I kind of adjust all the slings. Why do you think I want this on my shoulder pocket just like this? Where do you think I want it? Right, it's already there. It's already seated into that shoulder pocket, right? So this is already at almost presentation. I learned this when I was doing a lot of PSD work, right? Personal protection detail, where I was standing there and I had to go dynamic if I needed to in any moment. So we learned to start getting our buttstocks and sizing up the sling. What I like about the 2-point sling is if I go to full presentation, I can tighten this down. See what I mean? So I can tighten this sling down right here. And as I go to presentation, I could pull basically my elbow down. And what do you think I have? You can hear it. You can hear this lock in place. So let's say if I need to do a long standing shot, right? You'll see me size up my sling. I'll come in. I'll start cinching everything down so it gets tight on me. See, this is tight. This is a good standing position. All I had to do, pow, right? So everything's tight. So that's great to have this type of sling. Also, when I'm moving through, I don't know, a city, climbing walls, fence, this thing really tight on my body. So this thing becomes a part of me. I can move this thing to the side, and it basically glues up against me. If I have a teammate down, I can cinch everything and see, it doesn't move. The weapon doesn't move away from my body. All right, so CQB-wise, when I move up to a structure on a house, right? So let's say here, If I move it to a structure, I have a 2-point sling right here, but I can't move to my weak side. See, the gun is not free to move around my body, okay? So as I move it to a structure, I go into a 1-point over my neck, okay? So this over my neck allows me what? Freedom of movement to get my gun to weak side, strong side, or wherever I need. So what I'm recommending to you, right, get a 2-point sling, size it up right, and utilize the 2-point as a 1-point when you need it. Understand? When you need that. I do pop my collar because I'm trying to be cool. I pop my collar because it allows that sling to move around my collar without burning my damn neck. Okay? Try slinging a machine gun around your neck for a while. It's going to burn through your neck. Okay? So pop the collar if shit's starting to burn. All right. Obviously, you need some kind of retainer band or ranger band on your buttstock. Right? Why do you think I do that? It retains the sling, but why would I want to retain my sling? Vehicle, right? So we lost teammates to ambushes before and contacts on vehicles. And the worst place for you to be is in the vehicle, right? Because all that shrapnel, right, is hitting that vehicle. All right. I do carry extra batteries in my buttstock. I used to carry batteries on tape right here too, right? Because buttstocks, back then we had like these batteries that sit in here, and I'm all about that too. If you have a pistol grip that has the battery stored right here. We also had battery compartments stored on our buttstocks. You seen that? For me, I didn't like that because sometimes when I compress my weapon down in a vehicle, if I'm working here, dude, it tears my fucking hands up right here. It tears it up. So I didn't like the battery compartment right here, but individual shooter, right? All right, so let's talk about buttstocks. When I first came in, they had like the fixed buttstocks, M16A2s, right? And then when I got to the teams, I started seeing the collapsible buttstock. I'm like, man, that's so badass, right? And I used to run around shoot like this, right? In fact, we are taught to shoot center line on our chest, so going like this. Well, the problem with that is I never really had structure on my gun. So when I'm shooting and I have to drop down low, see, I'm maintaining all the weight right here. And then one of my seniors came up and said, "Hey, extend your buttstock." I'm like, okay. So I extend my buttstock, and he taught me how to measure it. He says, bend your arm to an L. So what you want to do is you kind of want to bend that to the L, right? And the reason why is because you want to use this L as structure on the gun. Okay? So if you find yourself like, if I'm dropping levels today, right, and I'm getting up, and if you're straining right here, bend your L. Bend the arm and use the structure of your body to get leverage on the gun. Make sense? Okay.
You said that for this curious. Are you going into the rear extending, you going inside your
Yes, sir. So right here, just a general rule of thumb, okay, and I just want to be able to get the buttstock into the L on my arm. Do you think it changes when I'm wearing body armor? It could, right? Depending on the cut. You know, the SEALs, they do the swimmer cuts, right? I like the swimmer cuts because it allow me to climb a little bit better. So the swimmer cuts, it frees up my shoulder pocket, so I can mount that. Some of our other ones, like the Cry Precision cage chassis system, big ass chassis system. Dude, I was shooting right here on my arm. All right, so, yes, sir.
I noticed your rear is on the other side.
Yes, sir. Yes, because this quick release bites into my shoulder, so I want it across. And also, it doesn't bind my sling when I go weak side. It doesn't bind that sling. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. Yeah, sometimes the swing will get twisted up. So having this, I went to Jerry Barnhart's training, and he had 550 cord. I didn't like the 550 cord idea Because, dude, it became a rat's nest after a while of that thing tangling up. So me hitting on the outside right here, it was pretty much the same functionality. So your gun, man, you have to be able to go strong side, weak side. That gun has to be free floating on your body. It's not just one side. Any other questions?